Joining me now is Commander. He was a Navy commander, but he's also a PhD doctor. Folks, I've been saying for a while, who am I talking about, by the way? Or get ahead of myself? Dr. Randy Arrington. Now, I've been saying to you guys for some time, I think we're involved in a civil war. And when I talk like that, you know, some people look at me like, or maybe worse than that. They think that's crazy talk. That's irresponsible. Well, you'll know that my documentary, Sabotage, which came out in December of 2019, had World War III and Civil War in the subtitle. And that whole documentary opens up with my friend Daniel Greenfield saying, we're in a civil war. And I started the documentary with that on purpose because I believe we are and have since at least 2019 when I released that documentary. People say, wait a minute, there's no shooting. Well, as Daniel Greenfield says in my documentary, shooting, that's how a civil war ends. We're involved in a civil war, no doubt about it. I think World War III has already started. There's an economic war, there's a drug war, there's a border war. China is helping the cartels flood our country with drugs. In fact, I think I have a article up at worldviewreport.com today, if I can find it, talking about how China is working so closely with the cartels. It's part of World War III. Information warfare, drug warfare, economic warfare, border war, they're everywhere to bring down America. And it's internal, which in part makes it a civil war because some of these people are not just foreign, they're domestic. They're born here. They're part of the Civil War. And as you look at what's going on with California and the governor of California, who seems to be so pro-China, maybe even an agent of China, and they seem to want to run him for the White House. When you look at these mayors in these Marxist cities and their anarchy, that's how I would describe it. They have no love for the rule of law. And I don't mean the rule of law based on man, but I mean the rule of law based on the laws of nature, and nature is God, the moral decalogue, what makes us a constitutional republic. When you look at these governors and these mayors, they're anarchists, they're revolutionaries. And you look at what they're saying about, well, trying to get the drug cartels out of the country with ICE, the Trump administration, which I applaud. They're thwarting them at every turn. How is that not proof we're in a civil war? California is looking to push legislation that allows one piece of paper to be filled out, and it's moving quickly. We've interviewed Nicole Pearson, we've interviewed Jack Hibbs and others on this piece of legislation that I think is advancing there in California. One piece of paper signed and someone can remove your child from school without your knowledge or permission, kidnap your child. All under the guise of health services, LGBTQ, abortion services, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get that child from any state into California. Now that's a sanctuary state for LGBTQ, for sex change, for abortion services. And within about 6 weeks, they can get your child's name changed and absorb them into the government system. The government of California doing that against parents of the country. If their trafficker or their much older boyfriend can get that minor child to California. That's what we're being told by lawyers. How's this not part of a civil war? Well, it is. And one of the men that's been warning about it is my next guest, as I said. He joins us now, Dr. Randy Arrington. Doctor, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
With you, and I love to hear the real truth.
Well, thank you.
That's
so
what you get.
You agree with my comments? Is that what you're saying?
Well, on the back of my book, it basically says we are in a civil war, and I've been teaching that we've been in a civil war since Barack Obama was president. If you remember, a couple of weeks before he took over, he said we are about to fundamentally transform the United States of America, which doesn't need fundamental transformation. He also said we are the people that we have been waiting for. That's a Marxist buzzword, meaning Marxism has failed everywhere because the right people haven't been in charge. He said, we are the right people that we've been waiting for, and we're going to do this. And we are in a civil war, Brandon, absolutely.
And why is it that so few people realize this? Is it because they don't understand the philosophies and the ideas of the day, like cultural Marxism?
They don't understand it. They haven't been taught that. Now in the elite universities, you have Marxist professors. And I would hear them when I would teach at these different universities as a visiting professor in the faculty lounge saying how wonderful Marxism is going to be. And I tell everybody, Marxism only works in two places: in the faculty lounge, where those university professors dream of it, and in hell, where they already have it, and the condemned souls can't escape it. Marxism never works. My doctoral dissertation was on the failures of Marxism and communist Soviet Union. And so it never works, but they don't give up because these elite professors are brainwashing people. I changed that word, brainwashing, to mind rape. I know that sounds hard to hear, but that's what these professors are doing to these students. They are raping their minds with communism and Marxism, and they don't know any different now. So that's the problem. We have these professors that are drilling these young kids, and some of them shouldn't even be in universities. My doctoral dissertation chairman said, Randy, half the kids in school right now in universities don't belong there. Don't belong there. They should be doing something at trade schools or whatever. When you get out of school from an elite university with a degree in whatever, you can't even get a job.
That's right.
So they're not doing these kids a favor. They're harming them. They're mind raping them.
Absolutely. My son, Logan, didn't go to college. I trained him in TV editing and everything at 17. He's now going on, he's 22 and a half. And these people that are getting out of college, his peers that are now getting out of college, could only dream of making the salary he makes. They'll never, many of them will never see the salary that he makes.
Exactly.
And yet they have a 4-year degree and tons of debt. And he's not overpaid. He's not overpaid. He's compensated for his skill set, what he knows, and he is I know I'm his dad, but he's a genius when it comes to television production and the science behind it and running these cables and where they go and how to make these systems talk to each other and how we can get, this guy to come in and be here with us and yet hear what we're saying, and using live view units that send the signal up. I mean, the stuff he knows, right? And the server racks, the loaded up server racks, over $1 million in equipment in our 2 control rooms. And all this equipment has to be connected and talk to each other and bring up the graphics and the lower thirds and all that he does. Now, I trained him, and then he outgrew me very quickly. I don't know how to run any of that now because that's all brand new equipment. When he came on board and he learned, he started saying, well, we need this, and we need this, and we need that. This is the way to do it. This is what the big dogs use. You're going to run in that world, you're going to have this and that. I don't even know how to turn this. I mean, I can turn it on. I know where the button is to turn these machines on, but I don't know how to run them. He learned how to run them, and he trained a control room full of guys that know how to run them. And his salary, he makes a very good salary. Now, he's not overpaid, but he's compensated for his level of expertise. And his friends that are getting out of college, they probably will never, except based on inflation, they will never see what he makes now. Because in the 4 years while they were in college, he was doing on-the-job training since his junior year in high school. And now here we are. And so I can tell you point blank, because I'm watching his buddies graduate this spring. They graduated. And they come home for the summer. Now they're all working their little jobs they've got. And it's disgusting to watch what they're being paid for 4 years of mind rape at the university. They got mind raped, and now they're working for garbage wages. And they think they're living the American dream.
Well, he's fortunate, doubly fortunate, in that he does have a wonderful occupation that earns him a nice living for him and in the future his family. But he also is part of a machine that is pushing out the real truth, not lying propaganda, which is what the Democrats do almost every day. They lie to the American people. And unfortunately, we have a lot of low IQ people who are susceptible to that type of propaganda and fear mongering. And I'm getting ready to write a script for another video where I talk about this is the new slave plantation. Your wages are, we give you welfare. And what you do for us as a slave is you vote for us every single cycle. And so he's fortunate he gets to push out the truth. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people, Brandon, that don't want to hear the truth because it upsets their entire worldview that they have built their lives on for however many years they've been around. And that's the problem with these mind rape kids come out of college. They don't know the real truth. They think they do, but that's a real problem. They don't know that they have been told lies.
Wow. Well, let's go to a video that I pulled up over the weekend. Because even though it was the holiday and I was moving 6.4 tons of creek rock, I should say, in my landscaping, I was still doing some research and I found this video and I thought, I've got to talk to somebody about it. And you're the man to talk to about it. Because I think this video is proof, one of the many videos, proof we are in a civil war. Watch what the mayor of Chicago had to say.
Are you prepared to defend this land that was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers? Are you prepared to defend this land? The people united will always prevail. I need you all to stand firm, to stand strong. If this president decides to continue to break this Constitution.
Okay, so he's saying if he puts ICE and National Guard into Chicago to stop the murders, that he needs the folks of Chicago, I guess his cultural Marxist comrades, to stand up. So this language that you're hearing, and you're hearing it across the border in the Marxist governors and mayors, is this not a call for civil war, for them to fight against the federal government?
It absolutely is. And my contacts that I still have in high levels of government tell me that they're going to send those troops to Chicago by next Friday. And he could clean up Chicago like he did with Washington, D.C.
Are you saying this Friday or a week from this Friday?
Next Friday. A week from this Friday.
A week from this Friday.
Right from this Friday, that's what they're telling me. So usually my contacts are correct. They tell me the real truth. I can't divulge who they are, but I hope that's going to happen. And when I see people like this spouting all this fear-mongering, I think to myself, how do they get elected? I'm running for senator in Louisiana. And how do you get them to get elected? It's fear-mongering and propaganda. And those people that are on the slave plantation for the Democrats that have been there now since LBJ was president, when he initiated all those free programs that haven't changed the war on poverty. Poverty is as bad or worse than it was in 1964 when Lyndon B. Johnson launched that war on poverty. Why? Because they want to keep people in poverty, because those people beg for welfare, and then all they have to do is vote for the Democrats, and that's how guys like Mayor Johnson get elected. That's how they get elected.
I was going to play this video, but it's too much cussing. But it says, liberal white women are now calling for a civil war. Whoops, sorry, that's got the F word on there. Didn't mean to have that come up there. I just type in civil war into Twitter. And I mean, a lot of people are talking. They seem to want to go to a civil war.
Well, my volume 2 of that book, on the back cover, it talked about us being in a revolutionary war, but these are American Marxists, and they they're citizens of America, and they are fighting us in a civil war, and it is a bulletless civil war right now, but it could, I tell my people all the time, it could very well transition into a hot war where there's going to be fighting in your streets, and you better be prepared. Buy weapons, buy ammunition, train with them, train your children with them, your wife, whoever. Get them ready to defend what is theirs, because it could be coming to your neighborhood. Hopefully, it won't, but it very well could. And we are absolutely in a civil war right now.
Listen to this collection of comments by the loony left.
I don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
Why?
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
I don't even know why.
So they've been talking like this for a while. It's ramping up with some of them. Now you have the red-green axis, the red being the Marxist, the green being the Islamist. This transgender kid in Minneapolis, he's got Marxist stuff and Islamic stuff written on his clips. And I think he is a product of mind rape. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And if you study Islam and Marxism, and I've written about this, you're going to find out that Marxism and Islam are eerily similar ideologies. They are both brutally, they're dictatorships, and they're totalitarian, brutal totalitarian. They masquerade themselves sort of as a religion. Marxism, that religion, the god is Karl Marx, or whoever is the current prophet, whether that's Lenin or Mao or whoever. And of course, it's Muhammad in Islam. That is their God. And I don't know if you know this, but Muhammad in 578, he picked a God to be their God and called him Allah out of 360 other gods. Allah is the moon god. So he chose him. And if you talk about people that have been horribly mind raped, it's the Islamists, the Muslims. And a lot of them maybe be good people and want to just get along, but the radicals, they want to cut my head off. And I try to tell this to people all the time. When are you going to believe that that's what they want to do? As they're sawing off your head, they are brutal. And so is Marxism. Marxism will destroy everything that it comes in contact with. It has forever and ever. The only one that's in the only country really that is doing well in Marxism is China, and they are not doing well. Their economy is beginning to tank. That's why they're building up their navy, because they envision having to fight our navy in a war. And that might happen too, Brandon.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me show you what's going on in Austin, Texas, okay?
Mike.
Here we go. What do you make of that?
Well, that's what the Muslims do. They infiltrate into these Christian neighborhoods, and then they use terror, and they use birth rate, and they use murder to make that society subject to their chaos and anarchy. And eventually, I just wrote this today, I think eventually we're going to have another modern day Crusades type war against the Islamists, because they actually believe, Brandon, that they will rule and Sharia law will rule the world one day. Guess what? Marxism believes they will rule the world one day. Again, another eerie similarity between Marxism and Islam. They think they're going to be the rulers of all mankind, with us being the peasants and them being the exalted ones on high. And trust me, you do not want to live in a Muslim or in a communist regime. You won't like it.
No, you won't like it. All right. So tell us about your book. This is part 3, right? Tell us a little bit about it, why people should get it.
That was volume 3. When I was a visiting professor at UCLA while I was still flying for the Navy, if I had students that missed a class, say Tuesday they missed my class, they could go to the student store and buy my professor lecture notes so they know exactly what I taught that day. I thought, well, how unique. I'm going to do that as a premise for a book. I'm going to publish my lecture notes as a book. And so if you read these 3 volumes, it is not written traditional style, paragraph, paragraph, paragraph. It is line by line by line, because it's the actual notes that I had in front of me at the lecture, at the podium, to deliver my speech or deliver my lecture. So it is the lecture notes that I do to give my videos, to give my students a lecture that they need. And it talks about, it teaches the real truth, not lying propaganda. And I get hit every week, or every day I should say, by the left. And the reason I called it a lunatic professor is because they call me a lunatic or a right-wing nut job. He's crazy as a bat. I just went with that, okay? If you think I'm a lunatic, that's fine. Read what I'm telling you. It's the truth. If you are able to understand and accept the real truth, that's what you're going to get. So it's on a variety of different subjects that happened during the writing of this. And the last one I wrote was called Transgender Terrorism in American Schools. And I'm getting a lot of the people on the right, Randy, you're absolutely right. We love it. People on the left are reaching out. They are so ugly to me. They're just saying you're crazy. That's not, you shouldn't say that about transgenders. I don't hate anybody, Brandon, but I think that transgenders is not a civil rights issue like the Democrats want you to believe, like it was in the 1960s. I think that the transgender issue is a mental health crisis, and we need to get these people the type of treatment that they need so that they can recover. And people say, Randy, you're hating on them. I'm not. I don't hate anybody. I want to get them the help they need. The last 9 shootings in schools have been by transgenders. I think one was non-binary, but the last 8 or 9 have been transgenders going into these schools and then killing these kids.
Yep.
And are they on the what do they call those, SSRI, antidepressant drugs?
Yep.
What does that do to your mind?
100%. And we've been talking to Dr. Peter Breggin, psychiatrist Dr. Peter Breggin, about that for years, right? He was a New York Times bestseller warning about that. Before we wrap here, let me show you a little video, a few videos. Here are people getting arrested in the UK for displaying their own flag. I think you have to pull off the audio, so I'll talk while it plays.
Whoa, what are you kicking me for, boy?
I pulled the audio down because I think they're going to start dropping some F-bombs there. But here's a guy being arrested for what we're told by sources is, and he says, all I did was raise the flag. And they're arresting him. So raising the flag with the cross, the traditional flag there in the UK, is now getting you arrested. This is increasing. They're involved in a civil war over there already. And look who's helping carry it out, the police. And I have warned my audience for probably 15 years now, don't respect people just because they wear a uniform, military or police. I said, I get so tired of everybody, bowing down to somebody because they got a uniform. Who cares? There are some very corrupt people that wear uniforms historically. Let's see. We could go onto all the dictators that wore uniforms with their, medals and ribbons. Okay. Not every cop's a good cop. In fact, increasingly, a lot of the cops are not good at all because they were hired because they're bad. That's why they got hired. They got hired because they're bad cops, and the city council is woke, and they want bad cops, right? Good cops, they chase them away. They wouldn't stand behind them. They wouldn't back them up. So they deliberately hire bad cops, many of them today, because they hire people that will do what they're told. The guys that come out of the military, the people that are raised with traditional values, they're not going along with it, and they're leaving, right? And you're left with a bunch of drones who do what they're told. Many of them aren't qualified to be cops, male or female. And then then when they do bad things, it's on video, so they can then use their own bad cops they hired to further denigrate the line and the profession of cops. Because that's what Marxists do, right? Destroy the institutions, the long march through the institutions. So they know they're hiring people that will do what they're told, agitate, scare people into compliance, but also they'll do dumb things that can be used to denigrate the military, denigrate the police, right? The institutions. And I told people for years, don't respect someone just because they wear a uniform. Respect them because of what they do. Do they swear an oath to the Constitution, the rule of law, and are they following it? Well, over there in Great Britain, you can see there's a civil war going on, and the people that are behind the civil war, as I play another video, the people that are helping the civil war are the cops. But this is the long march through the institutions, right, Randy?
It is, and I think if that first video was from London, and London has a Muslim mayor.
Yep.
And I always talk, when I talk with Kurt O'Manus all the time, I usually say this one line to him. I don't know what mediocrity is or where you would go to find it, but I think you might have just hit it on the head. It's in a lot of these law enforcement entities that are hired. They're not advanced people. They're not great people. They're mediocre people that are told what to do, and they do it to get that check. They couldn't get a job anywhere else. And so that's the problem. And, like I said, you got this Muslim mayor in London, and the other guy, the prime minister, his name is Starmer. He's doing nothing but facilitating all this nonsense for the people of England. And guess what? The people in Great Britain are starting to wake up and are starting to realize we are in a civil war. And like I said, I think we might end up having to do a modern-day Crusades world war against the double evil of Marxism and Islam, radical Islam.
I mean, look at these young guys. I bet you if you and I could spend 10 minutes talking to these young cops, we would find out that they are not real bright fellas. Okay, they're going to come up here. I don't know who they are, but my guess is, look how young they are, which is fine. You know, a lot of times cops are young. But my guess is if you interviewed these boys, you find out real quick they are not real bright people. And they don't know a lot about history and the ideas and the worldviews and the values and the rule of law, the laws of nature, nature's God. They don't know a lot about Oliver Cromwell, who they should very well know. They may know his name. And if they know anything, they've probably been told what a horrible person he was. We need more Oliver Cromwells in our culture.
I always tell people whenever I do a video or write something before I sign off, let freedom ring. God help us. And remember to always speak the truth and then endure those inevitable consequences. Because when you tell the truth in an era of massive deception, you are a revolutionary. And those people that believe those lies hate your guts. And I get it, Brennan, I get it every single day. And I tell people, look, I'm not really a politician. I'm a public servant. I have been my whole entire life. I just want to continue my public service as the senator from Louisiana. And I'm hoping that'll happen. But you got to realize there are a lot of, like you hit the nail on the head, there's a lot of low IQ people out there that are being hired into these positions of power. And all power corrupts. All power corrupts.
Yeah. And we could go all across the country here in the U.S. and show videos of cops behaving badly and being used by the Marxist mayors and governors. And praise the Lord for the good ones that are out there, but they're becoming fewer and further between in the red cities because they're hired on purpose. But the videos in the UK are really, really showing us that there's a civil war over there, and it's the government against the people. All right, I want people to get your book. Let me go back over here. There it is. Politics in America, Lecture Notes of a Lunatic Professor. And the reason it's titled that is because that's what the left was calling him. A right-winger, a lunatic. And it's his lecture note. And you can get it on Amazon. On Amazon. Politics in America. Just put in Dr. Randy Arrington. It'll pop right up. We need to get you back on more often. Glad you're here. And are you running for U.S. Senate or state Senate?
United States Senator against Bill Cassidy, who was actually censored by the Republican Party of Louisiana when he voted to convict Donald Trump in that second sham impeachment trial. He's not very well liked. But I'm the only guy in the West that is not a professional politician. There's like 3 or 4 professional politicians who will raise $60 or $80 million. I can't do that, but I'm doing a grassroots campaign. I meet people in real life. I hand them a card. I talk to them for 3 or 4 minutes, invite them to look me up on my videos online. And if you like me, please vote for me and pass the word. So yes, I'm running for United States Senator. The election until next year. So I'm getting my name out there, and it's starting to reap benefits. I'm getting invited to speak to different Republican groups in Louisiana. That's really good for me.
Good.
So,
I'm glad to hear it. I am glad to hear it. Good for you. Randy, we look forward to having you back. And you want to give a website for your campaign, by the way?
You can go to my Facebook. I'm on my Facebook, and I'm on Twitter as well. But Facebook and Instagram, Dr. Randy Arrington. And, my name is actually Randall, but the only person, and I have to use that name because when you run for office, you have to give me your real name. And the only person who calls me Randall is my mother when I'm in trouble.
I knew you were going to say that.
Randy.
I knew you were going to say that. There you go.
Yeah.
Dr. and Commander Randy Arrington. Thank you, sir. We'll be right back after this break. Hello, I'm Brandon House. Would you like to gain access to over 20 years of my radio shows, TV shows, my books? I've written 15 books, and most of those books are ebooks now. And we have conference DVDs, conferences where we filmed our conferences at the Ozarks, literally starting 20 years ago. It's all available in our archived vault. All you have to do is go to worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and for a reasonable monthly fee, you gain access to over 20 years of Christian worldview programming, news, information, books, documentaries, and a powerful search engine. And folks, it's a great way not only to educate yourself, equip yourself, but it's a big way that you can help fund our continuation as a broadcast network. Please check it out. worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault, and help us continue pushing out a Christian worldview.